Ladies and sinners, how's it going? What's going on this evening? Is everybody having a great Tuesday evening? Is it a good start? Are we having a great start to the week? Welcome to IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio. I'm your host, Cal Henderson. Get at us in the chat here on Spreaker.com. Get at us on our Twitter handles, SinCity_IESR, and at my personal Twitter handle, Kale_Henderson. Listen, we got a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to touch base on the Las Vegas Aces. Give you guys a little bit of a rundown of how that season's going. They have a game tonight here in Vegas at the Michelob Ultra Center, or Michelob Ultra Arena. We're going to touch base on UNLV. The baseball, softball team, they're wrapping up their seasons here quickly, and they are on top. They are near the top of the Mountain West, and I hope that they are looking to have a strong close, because there's a possibility for a couple tournament berths, and that'd be the first time in a long time that UNLV Fighting Rebels have had both the baseball and softball teams involved in the big tournament, the big dances. On top of that, we got to talk about the Golden Knights that just fired Peter DeBoer, who are possible candidates. The Raiders drama with Raiders, Dan Ventrelli and the drama there. We got to have an update on that. On top of that, folks, there could be more incoming players. And then on top of that, the power rankings. Every major network's talking about power rankings. We're going to touch base on that. Should you buy into that? I don't know. A game hasn't been played. So when we get back, we'll talk a little bit about those subjects. And again, we're all about it. This is the show made for Vegas sports fans. Welcome back, ladies and sinners. Welcome back to the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We're at it again, folks. We're back. 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time like we always are. We're going to talk about Vegas sports. Real quick, if you guys get a chance, you listeners out there, make sure you guys are following the Twitter. Follow the Sin City Sports Twitter, SinCity_IESR. It's free. Costs you nothing, and it helps the channel. It helps the podcast. Get at me. What's up, Adam? Good evening, sir. And then when you guys get a chance, follow my personal, because I'm directly connected to the show. Anything that happens with the show, I will be connected to it. Kale_Henderson on Twitter. If you guys ever want to talk to us, we would be delighted to be very involved with fans. We're always about that, okay? Always about that. For example, we asked, hey, do you like the intro song? Do we need to change it? Do we need to find another one? So far, everybody seems to really like the comeback song. Comeback song. We're always bumping when we come back from the break. All right, so we're always gonna have that one. But let me know what you guys think about the intro. With that being said, what's up, Adam? He said he got two questions. One hockey, the other one general. Shoot, man, shoot. And while you're typing those out, guess what? I'm gonna talk about our sponsors. We gotta give them some love, am I right? They pay the bills. And everyone say hi to Adam. He's the one that sends me the sponsorship reads. What a nice guy. Keeps me up to date on those. With that said, the Southern California Semi-Pro Warriors. The world of semi-pro sports is unlike any other sports organizations. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get film to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape, no matter what. All semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance. If you love your sport, you may get that second chance you have been waiting for as an athlete. Follow their social media on Twitter at SoCal Warriors, Instagram at California_Warriors, Facebook Southern California Warriors, and then we got to talk about the platform, the flagship channel, right? IE Sports Radio. Twitter at IE Sports Radio, Instagram at IE Sports Radio. It's pretty self-explanatory. But for the last 8 years, and yes, happy 8 years to IE Sports Radio. For the last 8 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, most importantly, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and with your help, we are ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers. The first one starting at just $5 a month. $5? Sign me up. This donation gets you shout-outs on all 32 of our shows. High tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment, hosted by the man, the myth, the legend, Larry B. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And we have 4 Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Barry Erased, M. Los Great, Key to the Gate, and Anonymous. He's got the original Anonymous? Can you confirm this, Adam? Does he have the original Anonymous, not Anonymous 12 kitty kitty lick lick? It's like the original Anonymous. Great effing name. Got to give it to him. And then shout out to our fan of the month is Justin Ekstrom, a Vikings fan from Minnesota. Skol Vikings, baby. Thank you, Justin, for following our shows. Thank you for being the fan of the month. Thank you for being such a supporter. Tuning back to the questions, Adam said we have 2 questions. One hockey, the other general. Who do you want replacing Peter DeBoer? It might be. You're talking about the Anonymous? I don't know, man. That's pretty crazy. You know? That if that's the original, we're in trouble. If that's the original Anonymous, I don't know. It's pretty crazy. That's like legendary status. There can't be too many of those floating around. As far as who do I want to replace Peter DeBoer, just to give you folks an idea of what's going on, we'll touch base on this a little bit more later on the show, but the Golden Knights recently fired Peter DeBoer after missing the playoffs. Peter DeBoer had a winning record. I think his win percentage was about 65%, which is pretty damn good in the NHL, actually really great. This is the first time that the Vegas Golden Knights have missed the playoffs, and if we're being honest, I don't necessarily blame DeBoer. I know he's getting a lot of heat because he started, a goalie that was injured. But he was probably better than their backup goalie, so you probably went with him. Maybe I think sometimes people look into it a little too much. In a lot of cases, there are certain athletes at 50% that are still better than their backups, right? And at the time, I still think that they were vying for playoff positioning. So I think Peter DeBoer got the crap into the stick, or the shit into the stick, if you will. A lot of injuries. Some of your best players played half the season, maybe just over half the season, and it's just really hard to win games when that happens. I'm not making excuses for the guy. I'm just being realistic here, guys. We were looking at guys like Mark Stone, who were key contributors in the past years. You invested capital in Jack Eichel. I still think he's got a ton of potential, and Vegas is probably the place to be. Yeah. Adam, you're right. 80% of Liner is better than 100% of a lot of goalies. I 100% agree. So when he made the decision to stick with Liner instead of putting in the backup, I'm not against that. I get it. You're vying for playoff positioning. You're doing what you're supposed to do. So what do you do when half of your star power or half of your really good players? There wasn't necessarily an elite player on this team per se, but there were a bunch of really, really good players, and majority of them weren't available for almost half the season. So what do you do in that instance? The fact that they were still in fourth place and going into the last couple weeks they were vying for a playoff position, I don't know. I feel like that's great coaching. It takes great coaching to stay there when you have that many injuries going on. Or maybe that just speaks to how deep the roster is, or how good and deep the roster is, and if those better players would have been healthy longer, we're probably looking at a playoff team. But regardless, if I'm going to talk about DeBoer, you and I talked about it a little bit on Twitter. Barry Trotz is the obvious answer. He's a Stanley Cup winning coach. We've seen what he does with talent. I think he did a phenomenal job in New York. I don't think the Islanders were that great of a roster, but they were winning games, and they made playoff appearances. So, and that whole thing, by the way, Adam, I thought it was a head scratcher. I think when I hosted the Neutral Zone was when Barry left. When I last hosted the Neutral Zone a few years ago, Barry left a season, not even a season actually. I think it was the off season after winning the Stanley Cup in Washington. That was a head scratcher to begin with. I'm wondering if they just didn't show him enough love. Maybe they thought they could win without him because they had Ovi and a pretty deep roster there in Washington. But Barry Trotz to me is the guy He's the easy answer, right? I really like Barry Trotz, but we're going to touch a little more on that later on in the show. Guys, again, give us a quick follow on our Twitter. All right, Sin City _IESR on our sports Twitter. Give us a follow. It's free. We post every day. Fun facts. Get at me on my personal, Kale _Henderson on Twitter. Message me anytime. I'd love to get involved. Thank you guys so much for listening. The Las Vegas Aces have started their season. And I'm so pleased with the results so far, especially because they got rid of quite a bit of veteran talent last year, and they decided to kind of revamp the roster a little bit and get a little younger. They're starting out 3-1. They have a game currently in progress there at the Michelob Ultra Arena there in Las Vegas against the Phoenix Mercury. They're currently trailing 14-12 in the first quarter. A lot of time to go, but guess what? 3-1. What a great start to a season, especially for a young team. And when you look at the statistics, man, you got to give a shout out to these Lady Aces. Jackie Young, Kelsey Plume, and Aja Wilson, all averaging more than 15 points a game. When you add Derek Hamby, each one of these guys are averaging 33 minutes a game, which is pretty crazy. It just seems as though they're rolling. The Aces are averaging about 90.8 points a game, while their defense is only averaging 81. That's a recipe for winning. I don't know if you can keep that up an entire season, but if they do, you're looking at more winning, big-time winning. Got to give a big shout out to them, and I'm going to give you guys score updates as the game goes on, or as the night goes on, especially because we got a full hour of this show, as we always do, and we got to love it. But yeah, currently in progress against the Phoenix Mercury at the Michelob Ultra Arena. Las Vegas Aces are at home. I hope it's a big crowd. If you guys want to listen to that after our show, of course, make sure you guys are looking on CBS Sports Network or ESPN Las Vegas, 1100 AM and 100.9 FM. Give those guys a listen. Support those Lady Aces. We love it. I want to talk about the UNLV athletics. The Lady Rebels have a Mountain West Pitcher of the Week. Yes, you guys heard it from me first. The UNLV Lady Rebels have a Mountain West Pitcher of the Week. Softball and baseball have been killing it in the Mountain West, or at least for UNLV this year. They're just absolutely killing it. The men are leading their division, the Mountain West Conference, I should say it is in baseball as of right now. The Lady Rebels are currently third, but that's only because of the conference standings. If we're looking at just a record alone basis, they should be second because they are ahead by 2 games of San Diego State, who is leading the division, but or the conference. But the conference standings are the conference standings. San Diego State has a 20-4 record, while UNLV has a 17-7. And then Boise State, we got to talk about them, give them a little love. I know they're not part of the UNLV experience, but if we're being honest, man, winning 12 games in a row in softball or baseball or any sport in general is crazy. The Boise State Broncos in the Mountain West softball are 40-10, have the best record in the Mountain West. And they've won 12 in a row. That is nuts. The UNLV Lady Rebels have, I think it's one more game left on their schedule. Yep, it is one more game left on the schedule. That is TBA. It's to be announced. They'll be in Fort Collins. So I'm guessing they will be playing the Colorado State Rams. I believe that is Fort Collins. They are in Fort Collins, so I'm sure that'll be that. Or it could, in general, be for the conference title. But I'm guessing it will be in Fort Collins against the Colorado State Rams. And then the UNLV baseball, men's baseball, got 3 games left against San Diego State in Las Vegas, Nevada. You guys can catch that on the 19th, the 20th, and the 21st. Winning all 3 games would just solidify a Mountain West title and probably give them a chance at playing in the big time tournament. I don't know if they're out of the realm necessarily, but when you look at their record, the standings there, they are first in the Mountain West. They're 34-19 overall, 19-8 in conference. Winning those last 3 games put them at 37 victories. I want to say 35 and 36 is usually that magic number to get into that dance, but we'll see what happens. They'd be a lower seed for sure because they're part of the Mountain West, but it'd be nice if both teams, the baseball team and the softball team, somehow made it to the tournament. Again, congratulations to our softball player of the week, and that would be Jenny Bressler. Love it. Keep going, UNLV. Take strides, man. We got to do what we got to do. All right? We're going to touch base a little bit on the Golden Knights, get a little more in depth in that. They fired Peter DeBoer, and this is what we're looking at, right? Peter DeBoer went, he coached 160 games, went 98, 50, and 12 with 208 points awarded, That's a 65% win percentage. In the playoffs, they were 30. They played 39 games in the playoffs with DeBoer as the head coach. Went 22 and 17, so won 56% of their playoff games. Unfortunately, they didn't they didn't win a title, but I believe he did help them advance to a conference final. My concern with the Vegas Golden Knights when it comes to this is I think they fired a good coach. I think they fired a coach that did very well considering the circumstances this year. A lot of the injuries. I believe that the Golden Knights, as of right now, are in cap hell. I don't know how they're going to work that out, but if they do, whatever coach comes in, they're gonna inherit a really talented team. They could probably trade a couple guys away and get younger and still be really good. Because again, you had a deep roster of really really good players. Pacioretty, Mark Stone, Jack Eichel. I mean, those are just to name a few. Williamson, Carl, yeah, Carl, Carl Williamson or William Carlson. Sorry, William Carlson. I always get his name mixed up. The man with basically two names. I feel like he's a young, talented guy. He's kind of fallen off since the recent talent acquisitions in general. But Peter DeBoer was a good coach. You don't win 65% of your games by accident. And if we're being real, he did it this year with a different goalie who, I'm sorry, I don't think Liner is as good as the Flower. Maybe he's better than him now because of the age difference, but the Flower was, I mean, he's got to be legendary in Vegas for what he did in his first few seasons, the first few seasons as a team. So I don't know. I think that there was a lot of decisions that were made that were out of his control, and he did the best he could in the situation. I'm sure he'll get work elsewhere. He'll get hired right away. It won't be very long. A lot of people will look at his record and say, yeah, we'd love to have that. I mean, the Arizona Coyotes team is sorry. I'm not even sure they're a NHL team. If they don't go after Peter DeBoer, I mean, I don't know why he'd want to coach there, but if they don't go after Peter DeBoer, they're crazy. There's rumors of possible change in Toronto. I don't know if you'd want to do that. That'd be a good landing spot for Peter DeBoer. Philly has an open spot. If I may stand corrected, but I think Philly has an open spot. So kind of back to Adam's question is, who do I want? Who do I want to replace DeBoer? The easy one's Barry Trotz. Barry Trotz has an amazing record as a coach. He's a Stanley Cup champion. And yeah, you're right, Adam. Washington let Trotz hit free agency as a coach. Very weird move. And it was the offseason, like the very offseason, no more than 2 or 3 weeks after they had just won a Stanley Cup. And I want to say it was the first one in their franchise's history. If I may stand corrected, but I want to say that the Washington Capitals, that was their first Stanley Cup. So yeah, back to Trotz. He's just the no-brainer there, man. If you can, go after him. But back to Las Vegas, man, I just feel like they're in a bad pattern because Gerard Gallant, I mean, he went 118, 75, and 20, had a 60% win percentage, also had a Western Conference final berth, 59% win percentage in the playoffs, and he won the Jack Adams Award, which is essentially the NHL Coach of the Year. I don't know, man. I don't think Gerard should have been fired either. In general, I hope they're not setting a precedent. Like, it's going to be hard to get coaches there. It's a prime spot. It's in Vegas. No state income tax. You're going to keep more of that NHL salary. But when you really think about it, man, it's going to be hard to attract really big coaches if you continue to fire winning coaches. But maybe this management team thought, hey, this should be a Stanley Cup winning team, even with half of their really good players injured. I don't know. But yeah, Barry Trotz is the obvious replacement answer. Here's another two for you, Adam. Yeah, you're right. Barry Trotz should be the top of everybody's list. I think that the Knights, they're the spot, man. I think that they should be the desired spot, the big time spot that everybody really covets. But I could totally see Trotz he's just an old school hockey guy. I really like his style of coaching. I could totally see him going for something like Philly. I know you mentioned the Blackhawks. Why not? They may not have a very good roster, but rich history. The Flyers have a rich history. I could totally see him go to one of those two teams. Why not? Yeah, dude. Yeah, the new hire will be the third coach already. Not a good precedent. And what's scary, Adam, is both of those coaches have great winning records. Like when you Google it, man, when you look at their winning records, like 60% win percentage, that gets you into playoffs, man. And again, I think they make the playoffs if the injuries weren't so bad this year. It wouldn't surprise me if they were at least second in the division. I don't know if they catch the Flames. The Flames are crazy, but it wouldn't surprise me if they would have been at least second in the division. So I think DeBoer kind of got the short end of the stick. He'll land somewhere. I don't know if it'll be a spot as good as Vegas, and I just don't feel like it's a good precedent. Like, what if Barry Trotz shows up here? I mean, he's going to have some language in his contract saying, "Hey, yeah, you're not firing me if I win 65% of my games. I'm sorry." You know what I mean? He has the third most wins in NHL history, 914. Coached the second most game at 1,812. I mean, the one thing I can tell you that would be really strong is Trotz is great with defensive structures. I think he does a great job of maximizing goaltending potential. Even if the goaltender's not that great, I think he does a great job of surrounding him. So to me, I think the Trotz is the no-brainer. Another one I would love to see maybe, and these are old heads, so forgive me, but Joe Quenneville to me is just if it wasn't for the crap that happened in Chicago, I think Joe Quenneville would be lauded as a legend. You know, I think maybe he's still a legend because of his wins, 3 Stanley Cup victories, all that stuff. But I think the sexual assault issues that happened in Chicago that are still being investigated, yeah, I think that's hurt his status. But if he still wants to coach, I have no idea why you wouldn't entertain the idea of Joe Quenneville if you couldn't get Barry Trotz. Joe Quenneville has a knack of utilizing talent. He really does. John Tortorella is another one. I think he did a great job in Columbus. Again, I just don't see a lot. I didn't see there was talent there. I just didn't see like major talent compared to the other teams that were in the Eastern Conference when Joe Tortorella was the man in the box with those Columbus Blue Jackets. Tortorella is he's a hard-nosed coach. I don't know. He'd be a pretty good one. And then I have a lot of respect for Paul Maurice. Um, I think I think sometimes you just need a mental break, and the Winnipeg Jets just weren't that guy. And I agree, Adam. Maybe I think if it wasn't for the scandal situation, we'd be talking about him like he's one of the greatest of all time. But uh, there are things, man, that just make you question someone's humanity and their personality. You know, like the Amber Heard, Johnny Depp stuff. You just look at that lady and you're like, really? What kind of person are you really? That's what I think. That I'm not saying Joe Quenneville's the same person because he didn't commit those acts, but it's one of those situations. I put it in the same relevance excuse me, listeners, don't hit me, but I put it in the same type of form as the Joe Pa situation at Penn State. I think Joe Pa reached out to the administration. I think he tried to bring light to what happened with Jerry Sandusky and the heinous things that were happening, but he didn't do enough, especially with his platform and how big he was. Joe Quenneville could have gotten rid of that guy and I don't know, had Chicago throw him in that cold ass lake out there, and nobody would have batted an eye. That's how big Joe Quenneville was. So I'm with you. He's probably untouchable. But I do think maybe a return for Paul Maurice, a really good roster. Why not? He did great with the Winnipeg Jets. I thought the Winnipeg Jets were juggernauts in the regular season for a few years. Give him a roster like Las Vegas, and I think you have something going there for sure. So those would be the candidates. And then your second question, excuse me, what major league would you like to see coming to Vegas next? Personally, I don't really want another one. I want the Raiders to continue to get all the attention because they are the big, but they're the NFL, so they're almost untouchable at this point. Like you can't reach their popularity. I think it's crazy. The things that the NFL does is just on another level. Major League Baseball is the obvious one. NBA is cool. I think Major League Baseball makes more sense because you can build something like what the Arizona Diamondbacks have. I don't know if you've ever been to an Arizona Diamondbacks game, Adam, but they have an enclosed stadium that opens up and stuff. It's really cool. I've been to a few of those. Watched a few Giants games there. My San Francisco Giants there. I'd really like to see a Major League Baseball team in Vegas, but unfortunately, it seems as though baseball's dying. I mean, I hate to say that. Vegas is the spot. I think Vegas is a great spot. It'd be a great spot for a stadium like the one you have in Arizona, where you can open and close it, air condition it, make it indoor, outdoor, whenever you want. Night games, if it's past 7 o'clock, obviously the sun's cooled down. Depending on where you face the sun, it won't be as bad. So that's something to think about. But overall, man, I think MLB would be the wise choice. I think MLB would be the more. I should say this. I think MLB would be the more entertaining choice. But I think the NBA is the way to go. I just think they have better TV contracts. I think they're a better cash cow business wise. So if I was to have another major league, it'd probably be the NBA. You're going to bring in more tourism that way. Although Major League Baseball would be awesome because again, you're going to get 81 home games a year in that case. I think Major League Baseball has way too long of a season, but that's just me. They should cut that crap in half or at least 100 games. Make the games more meaningful. It's nuts. When we get back, guys, we're going to dive into the Raiders. We're going to talk about the drama that's unfolding in the business side of things, the operations side of the Raiders. We're going to talk about Raiders rumors, who could be added, maybe more incoming talent, and then the power rankings. All these major networks are talking about power rankings. Should you buy into those? Without a game being played, should you buy into those? Yes and no. But when we get back, we'll discuss that a little bit more.
What's up, everybody? This is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What is going on, everybody? My name is Harrison Glazer, and we're coming at you from the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. I cover the Jets, the Islanders, the Nets, and the Yankees.
This is Pierre Moss, and I cover the Mets, Knicks, Rangers, and the Giants.
Our show is live every Wednesday through Spreaker and a bunch of other ways to get our content. Again, we're the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. We talk about all those New York sports. It's a lot of fun. We get into all of it. Please tune in. Again, that's Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
And we look forward to having you guys right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What is going on, everybody? This is Ben Matello, the host of the Yinza Report, right here on IE Sports Radio. I'm bringing you the latest in the Steel City, the City of Champions, from the Steelers, the Penguins, the Pirates, as well as the college game with both Penn State and Pitt. You could join me every Tuesday afternoon at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, where I'll be talking about everything from the Steel City, the City of Champions, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hi everybody, it's Calvin here from USRN, here to give you an important message. Since 2017, we have done our absolute best to provide you with nothing but the highest quality of sports calls in the greatest of quantity possible. Thanks to you, our station has grown more than we ever thought. That's why, with your help, we would like to grow even further. Just think, twice the amount of your favorite calls, 24 hours of coverage, talk shows, play-by-play, game-by-game analysis, and so much more. That's right, USRN2 is officially in development, but we can't do it alone. We have set up a GoFundMe page that you can access from our homepage on the left of your screen. We also are planning special giveaways and prizes to our highest donors. Our goal here at USRN is to bring you the best calls possible at no cost to you. In order to continue to do that, we need your help now. Please check out our GoFundMe page, and if you would like to know how you can help, you can email usrnradio@gmail.com. Without your support, we couldn't do what we do. Hey USRN fans, do you have a product or company you're trying to promote? Look no further. USRN is teaming up with small local businesses trying to establish themselves via online promotion. Let us know if you're interested. Email us at usrnradio@gmail.com to learn more.
Ladies and gentlemen, hear me and hear me good. If you like sports, then you like the Wait a Minute Show. If you like comedy, then you like the Wait a Minute Show. If you like a different opinion coming from a different angle, then you like the Wait a Minute Show. So join me Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with your host, Jelani J.B. Bodie. And of course, my man Lopan on the WaitAMinuteShow.com. Ain't that right, Lopan?
Ladies and sinners, welcome back to the Sin City Sports Show, IE Vegas. Yes, the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cal Henderson, and you know what that song means. It means welcome back. It also means we are on the back half of our show. We've talked a little bit about the Lady Aces. We're going to give you a score update there. It's 36-30, Phoenix Mercury with the lead in the second quarter at the Michelob Ultra Arena there in Las Vegas. If you guys want to listen to the game after the show, of course, you got to finish us first. ESPN Las Vegas, 1100 a.m. and 100.9 FM. Okay? Give them a listen. Support the Lady Aces. They're on a roll so far this season, starting out 3-1. We talked about the UNLV. Congrats to the baseball softball team for excellent seasons. Hoping for either one or both of those teams to get a invitation to the dance there, that tournament, that NCAA tournament there, and be awesome. On top of that, touch base on the Golden Knights, hoping for a Barry Trotz hire. Upset with the Peter DeBoer. They're a little skeptical on that decision. Seems like there's a bit of a downward trend, though. And we don't want that to be, something you see in Vegas, because then it'll make it harder to find those solid coaches. So I'm hoping that Vegas Golden Knights kind of find a guy and stick with him and let him kind of grow the team, especially with the way the team is built now. It's built to win now. If the Raiders or Golden Knights decide, hey, it's time to rebuild, I hope they give that coach a fighting chance with that rebuild, right? Give him a good 4 or 5 years to rebuild. Hockey takes a little bit sometimes, unless you really want to trade away the assets. Talking about the Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, the now Las Vegas, the hometown team, the home favorite Raiders. We'll start with the drama. The business side of things. You guys know a little over a week ago, Dan Ventrelli was fired by the Las Vegas Raiders as president. He was the acting president at the time. It seems as though there's been a lot of drama in that business part, especially with Mark Baden's departure. He was let go, citing accounting irregularities. Now Dan Ventrelli's been let go. Dan Ventrelli recently released a statement saying, "Today Mark Davis terminated my employment as president of the Las Vegas Raiders. I have committed almost 18 years of my life to the success of the Raiders as general counsel and president. I take that responsibility very seriously, which is why multiple written complaints from employees that Mark created a hostile work environment and engaged in other potential misconduct caused me grave concern. When Mark was confronted about these issues, he was dismissive and did not demonstrate the warranted level of concern. Given this, I have informed the NFL of these issues and Mark's unacceptable response. Soon thereafter, I was fired in retaliation for raising these concerns. I firmly stand by my decision to elevate these issues to protect the organization and its female employees. I remain committed to doing everything in my power to support the Raiders and the Las Vegas community, and I now call home. I have retained counsel and will have no further comment at this time." So Dan Ventrelli's, I hope it's not alluding to what was going on with the Washington Redskins, or now the Washington Commanders. At that time it was the Redskins. Dan Snyder and the hostile work environment he was creating. I don't think it was anywhere near that degree, but we'll find out, because litigation, it's bound to go to litigation. I mean, there's just no way around it. If Ventrelli is seeking counsel's telling him, hey, you can go after him. You could probably get maybe some sort of settlement or something like that, or maybe you want to bring things to light, but let's just address what we have to address, right? Mark Davis hasn't been a favorite. I wouldn't say he's been a favorite of the NFL's. It's almost seemed like the NFL is wanting to put Mark Davis in a bad spot for years. For example, last year was a perfect example. They knew back in July about those emails with John Gruden, but they waited till October to fire the man. It's things like that you scratch your head where you're like, hey, if it doesn't fit the NFL's prerogative, are they really going to act on it? Right? So I'm hoping Mark Davis, I'm hoping this is nothing. I'm hoping this is just a guy who's really upset. I'm hoping this is just somebody that Mark Davis felt he terminated. If we're being honest, his words that, I take my responsibility very seriously. He was committed to creating success for the Raiders as general counsel and president for the last 18 years. What success? Right? Maybe Mark Davis kind of looked at the performance of the franchises as a whole from a business to a football perspective the last 20 years and saw, hey, we've been crap. And until this move to Vegas, we really haven't been a money-making team or franchise. As a matter of fact, before the move to Vegas, they were worth $970 million. If this guy is talking about, I've committed almost 18 years of my life to success of the Raiders and general counsel as president, then he didn't do a very good job. So you could look at it two ways. I take it very seriously that there's a possibility that it was a hostile work environment. It's very possible. In today's society, nothing can be hidden. Okay? So if this is the truth, then yeah, actions need to be taken by the NFL to make this right, to amend the situation. If it isn't true and this is just some guy who's scorned because he was fired for not obviously being part of a regime that did a really crappy job for 20 years, then let him walk. But I also hope if that's the case, I hope people are starting to kind of figure out, with the Deshaun Watson situation, right? Or the Johnny Depp situation, where they're suing for defamation, where they're suing for wrongly accusing. I hope this type of stuff is happening, because we can't let people continue to apply accusations with no proof. But again, I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. I'm looking at both sides. I see an employee that obviously didn't do a very good job at his job because, well, the Raiders franchise hasn't been very successful or money making for the last 18 years, with the exception of the last 2 years for that matter. And then I also see one side of it that you have an old franchise that was run by a football-minded guy who wasn't very good at business. That it is what it is. Al Davis was a football guy. He made his billions through football. As a player, as a coach, as an owner, as a GM, as an owner. One of the founding NFL owners, by the way, because he was one of the old AFL guys that helped with the merger with the Hunt family and the Chiefs. Al Davis was not a business guy. He was business first in his approach in building the team, but he wasn't a business guy. And he kind of helped run that team into the ground in his later years. Right? Mark had a huge mess to clean up when he got back. Mark Baden being one of them. If there was accounting regularities, and that's what's believed, if there was accounting regularities, and this is just what I'm looking at, guys, because I work for a business, okay? I spent the last 10 years in sales and trying to create business and creating revenue for a business. These are just my own opinions, so I'm going to give you that, okay? I think Mark Baden did an excellent job helping Mark Davis kind of solidify the move to Las Vegas. But it wouldn't surprise me if Mark Baden and guys like Dan Ventrelli, who were part of the old regime, hired by Al Davis, not Mark Davis, were doing some not so good things. Mark Davis hired a firm to come in, analyze what's going on, get a second opinion, third opinion, fourth opinion, help him decide what would be the best thing for the Raiders business and the Raiders football side moving forward. And maybe Mark Baden and Dan Ventrelli were two guys that just weren't a part of that business plan moving forward. Maybe they didn't do a good enough job. Maybe they were skimming. Accounting regularities, in parentheses. So just my opinion, I think those guys were let go because they were part of an old regime and they thought they could get away with things. They were maybe skimming money here and there. Those are just my opinions. But a lot of that's being said because I hope what's happening with the character issues of Mark Davis and the franchise aren't true. If they are, they need to be punished accordingly. If Mark Davis has to be removed, I'm not against it. I don't want to see it because I think he's trying to do the best he can to bring that franchise back to its glory. But if it was harsh work environment and it's on the level of what we never heard about with Dan Snyder, get rid of him. Find a new owner. Find somebody who's going to appreciate the Raiders. Find somebody who's going to purchase the Raiders because they'd probably sell for $4 billion right now. So like I said, it's either a really disgruntled guy who doesn't like the fact that he's not going to get his cash cow anymore and didn't do a very good job at his job, so Mark Davis got rid of him, or there was some legitimacy to what he's saying. He will be seeking counsel. And with that said, I mean, it's probably going to go to litigation. We're going to probably see court. But I would probably say that Mark Davis wouldn't be doing these moves if he wasn't a smart guy. Because, you know, I read on air last week that there was a longtime national attorney who apparently didn't want to be named in the article. But he believes Mark Davis is a very smart guy, and he wouldn't have done this without knowing he could do it. That said, we're going to move on to the team, the football side of things. Raiders rumors, huh? We're looking at a team who is much better, which is much better than last year, but also looking at a division which is much better than last year, right? Brian Edwards was recently traded. I'm a little upset with that news. I mean, you can't get too attached to players. It's kind of how it works. The Raiders front office obviously believes that they could get better at that position by moving on from Brian Edwards, but you just see a ton of potential, and you see a guy with a huge frame at 6'3", about 212 pounds. He runs a 4.4 40, and when he's healthy, he's actually a very good player, especially on the boundaries, man. He's just such a big body. I think he's going to do very well in Atlanta. The Raiders were able to complete that trade. They got a 5th rounder from Atlanta in exchange for a 7th rounder and Brian Edwards. So, the Raiders walk away with a 5th rounder. He was a 3rd rounder a few years ago. Someone I don't think was utilized well enough by the Raiders, and I think the developmental focus might have been on Henry Ruggs and not on him. And some injuries kind of crept up. But Brian Edwards should be a stud. I think Arthur Smith and the Falcons will really unlock that potential with Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Like that could actually be a really, really tough team offensively if they can shore up some of that offensive line woes there in Atlanta. Commit to the run because those are some really big guys. And yeah, Brian Edwards has a ton of potential, so I wish him nothing but well. But with the signings of like guys like Keelan Cole from the Jets, he's a big play guy. You still have Tyree Johnson. The Devontae Adams trade is kind of a big deal. You still have Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller. You went out and got Marcus Robinson from the Chiefs last year, or this offseason you went out and got Marcus Robinson. I think this overall, this receiving core is pretty deep. Just by looking at the front two guys and Darren Waller, you have a really scary receiving core there. But when you can add in some guys, sprinkle in some guys like Robinson and them who have experience being a number 2 or number 3 receiver, I think the Raiders are in good shape in the receiver position. It wouldn't surprise me, the Raider rumors, Nelson Aguilar could be released by the Patriots. I believe he was underutilized last year. Mac Jones just isn't a deep ball thrower yet. He could be, but he's just not there yet, right? Accurate quarterback, but he doesn't push the ball downfield very often. I think we've heard those criticisms before out of a certain quarterback on the Las Vegas Raiders who happens to be one of the best deep ball passers and play action passers in the game. Just looking at those coincidences there, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. It wouldn't surprise me if Nelson Aguilar ends up on the Raiders, man. If there's a cut, I don't know why the Patriots would cut him. I don't think Kendrick Bourne is that much better than Nelson Aguilar, if at all. I know they went out and signed, or they went out and traded for Brandon Parker from the Miami Dolphins. So maybe the Patriots feel like they have a better receiving room than what they did before. I'm not sure. But if they release Nelson Aguilar, and I believe that's the only way he's acquired by another team, because nobody's going to trade for that salary, it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up a Raider. I think that'd be the best spot for him. There's rumors of Ndamukong Suh. Yes, he's going to be 36, but with the rotation of Neil Farrell, these new off defensive linemen that have been picked up this off season, Bilal Nichols, I totally see Ndamukong Suh coming in being a guy that can really show these two new young guys in Neil Farrell and our Matthew Butler, those two new draft picks, how to really play football at the highest level, and show them some tips and tricks. But adding him to a defensive line room, which is already pretty deep, would be kind of scary. And honestly, when you look at that and you think about that, Max Crosby in the end, Chandler Jones in the end, you have a Bilal Nichols, you have a guy like Ndamukong Suh in the middle. That just spells a really deep, very feisty, very strong defensive line. I don't think that's something most teams would want to play against. So if Ndamukong Suh's picked up, I'm not against it. And then obviously the James Bradbury stuff, cornerback, former Giant. He has connections to the current defensive coordinator, Patrick Graham. Actually had his best seasons as a pro under Patrick Graham. Bradbury coming over I believe that's going to happen. There has been no news on Bradbury, and part of me feels like that's because there's already an agreement reached, and maybe Vegas is just telling him, hey, we're going to pay you this much when the money comes back on the books June 2nd, because as you guys know, and as we talked about on the show, the Raiders designated Corey Littleton and Nick Kwiatkowski as 2 June 1st cuts. And you can do that 2 players a year. If you see that there's big salary cap hits that you want to divert to salary cap but can't do it right away because of the amount of money that would go against the dead cap, you can actually refer them to the post-June 1st designated cut, 2 players per year. Those were the 2. That'll save the Raiders about $20 million. So, $20 million more dollars will be back on the books, putting the Raiders about 25 going into the training camp or the weeks before training camp. It wouldn't surprise me if all 3 of those guys are signed. I would like to see Bradbury, Suh, and maybe a right tackle signed, because I believe this receiving core is already pretty deep. But if you can add a Nelson Aguilar and get rid of one of the guys you just signed, maybe a Tyron Johnson or whatever, Nelson Aguilar is going to be better than Tyron Johnson. I think Tyron Johnson's more of a speed guy. Nelson Aguilar is a speed and route runner in general. He's got great rapport with Derek Carr, as we know. Go for it. If you can bring on Nelson and improve this receiving core that is already really deep and is in win now mode, you might as well, especially if it's at a low price. And the last thing I want to talk to you guys before we close out the show, because we're about 8 minutes out from closing out this show. The power rankings. Should you buy into them? Listen, major networks, Fox Sports is one of them. I just watched Marcellus Wiley and Sam Acho kind of talk about that on their show. They were talking about top 5 offenses, top 5 defenses. I think Raiders recently in a NFL power rankings, if you guys go to NFL.com, they were ranked number 10 in the NFL power rankings. Listen, nothing has been done other than off-season moves, and you always got this is just something for people to talk about. Don't read into this. Don't buy into that. A game hasn't been played. Injuries haven't happened. We're not 10 weeks into the season can have a really good look at what we think teams are and aren't, right? Don't read into that. Just know this is what I'm telling you. This because I've covered this team for years. This is one of the better teams I've seen on paper. And I'll say this on paper because, you got to get in and you got to play the games. But this is one of the better teams I've seen on paper in a decade. I would say that this team is better than the 2016 team that went 12-4. I personally believe that. I think you have better weapons all across the board. I don't believe the offensive line is better. That'd be the one area that the Raiders really need to improve, which is why I said if I had a choice, Bradbury, Sue, and maybe a right tackle that's on the market, because somebody's going to be available. There's always, post June 1, so June 2nd, there's going to be a big-time player release that you weren't expecting. It happens every single year, and it's just because of cap. It wouldn't surprise me if a tackle becomes available in the market and the Raiders go after them, because I don't trust anybody on this roster just yet. I think there's a couple young guys in Mumford, the kid that we signed out of Utah, massive man, 6'8", about 360 pounds. He reminds me of Trent Brown. He was very dominant in the Pac-12, shut down pass rushers like Jermaine Johnson and Kayvon Thibodeau on tape. He's an older guy. He went on a mission trip, so he finished his college career a little later. But he's a massive man with an attitude. I could totally see him being a tackle of the future. But if we're being honest, I don't think Brandon Parker, I don't think Alex Leatherwood are the guys right now. I'd like to see Alex Leatherwood get on the shot in camp. I'm sure he will by this new regime. I just don't see it yet, right? So if a tackle comes available on the market, use some of that $25 million to get him. I am a little worried that Bradbury and Sue will soak up most of that $25 million. But if a tackle comes available after June 1st, there's a really good possibility that he's going to be cheap. So that would be my preference. But if they end up with Bradbury at Aguilar or Sue and Bradbury, I'm not going to be upset because you have a deep receiving core. The one spot on this team I could really see needing a huge improvement if a player comes on the market, somehow makes it on the market post June 1. On June 2nd, this player is available. I hope the Raiders go after him. Okay, right tackle, interior guard. I think they kind of help shore that up a little bit this offseason or in the draft. We'll see. But it seems as though this new regime sees the young guys that Gruden and Mayock put in place, and they said, hey, I think there's a ton of potential here. Maybe the scheme change will help. Let's give them a shot. The Raiders made a playoff push and made playoffs without weapons in general. Like, they didn't have their number one wide receiver. They didn't have their number one tight end for 6 games. And they still made the playoffs behind the 28th ranked offensive line in the league. Yes, it's extremely embarrassing, and it sucks to say that. But I personally believe that the Patriots, or that these former Patriots guys who are very good at developing offensive linemen, it seems like they have no-namers on their offensive line every single year, see this line and say, I see potential, which is why they haven't really broke the bank as far as money's concerned on this portion of the depth chart. Maybe they see things we don't, and I'm gonna trust them until I can't. Right? There's still a lot of young developmental talent on this team. You have an offensive line coach that's coming over from the New England Patriots that worked directly under Dante Scarnecchia, one of the greatest line coaches we've ever seen in the NFL, taking over this unit. And you have one of the top assistants in NFL history, if I may, with 5 Super Bowl rings, taking over your head coaching but play calling duties. Learning from the madman, the mad scientist himself, Bill Belichick. He knows more about defense. He's forgotten more about defensive alignments and structures and plays than any of us have. I think we give Josh McDaniels a chance to work with the guys he wants to work with. Truly. I think we really need to just think about that. He's been easily one of the top 10 coaches in the league the last decade or so. Highly coveted for years. Highly coveted for years. Sorry about that sound, guys. Adjusted. I know it's rapid. We'll get better. So we got to trust him because he's going to be great at game planning and assisting. The only really good thing we can talk about the Giants the last few years is Patrick Graham and the defense. And both of those guys are calling your offense and defense this year. Lot to be excited about. Don't read into the power rankings, man. Don't buy into it. As long as the Raiders, and I said this on our Twitter, as long as the Raiders are top 5 in red zone efficiency, so they score, offensive efficiency, scoring efficiency, I should say, meaning if the Raiders score on more than half of their possessions, whether it's field goal or touchdowns, you're good. If they're top 5 in red zone efficiency, they're going to be a good team. If they're top 5 in turnover differential, they're going to be a really good team, which means they cause turnovers and give the ball away less than anybody else, right? If they're top 5 in field position, starting field position, and top 5 in time of possession, this will be a much better football team than what we saw last year. And that's scary because that last year's team had the 5th seed. And the only way you can do that is being top 5 in those categories. Don't worry about being top 5 in offense, top 5 in defense. If you're top 5 in those categories in this league, you're going to win a lot of games. And you're going to be considered a championship contender shortly. All right? I love you folks. Thank you guys so much for joining in. Again, this is the IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio. Your direct feed for all that is sports. This is the Vegas show built for the Vegas fans. And that's what we're here for. Get at us on Twitter. Give us a follow. Sin City at IESR on Twitter. Give me a follow. Talk to me on my Twitter at Kale_Henderson. As always, tune in on Tuesdays. 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're going to talk about Vegas sports. Talk about the Raiders, UNLV, the Las Vegas Aces, and the Golden Knights and the developments that go on there. And as always, be well. Take care of yourself. And love, peace, and hair grease. Ladies and centers.